Yep, we are.
All right. One time a year. I know this is always one that we work through. It's one time a year.
I know. Okay.
All right.
And it'd be the same motion. Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Scheibert?
Yes.
Mrs. Stewart?
Yes.
Mrs. Mulligan?
Yes.
Dr. Urso?
Yes. And if you don't mind, I would just like to say a few things. First off, thank you to my colleagues. For the last 7, now entering 8 years, it's been indeed an honor to serve in this capacity. And I feel like we're a good team and appreciate working with each of you. And I know our critical goal is serving our staff as they serve our students. And I'm proud. I'm proud to sit here. I'm proud of the work that we've been able to accomplish. Excited for 2023 and the things that we'll encounter this year. And I'm very hopeful for Middletown City Schools. We have a lot to be prideful of. Great students, great teachers, great staff. And to sit here on this board to serve in that capacity is a great honor. I am supremely proud that my 2 kids attend Middletown City Schools and will receive, if they do everything as they should, diplomas from Middletown City Schools, because I know it'll open doors for them. And so thank you to Mr. Stiles, Mr. Bertram, your team, our team, all of our teachers, everyone within this system, from the folks serving our food, driving our buses, to the teachers who every day walk into classrooms. And it's not easy work. I grew up in a family of educators. I know it's tiring. I know it can be a long year. And I know sometimes it's thankless. But know that we appreciate you. And I think I can speak on behalf of the board, all of us, that we do take this responsibility. And we absolutely try our best because we know how important it is. And so with that being said, we need to elect a vice president. Is there a first nominee for vice president?
I'd like to nominate Mrs. Mulligan.
Second.
Is there a second nominee? If there is none, then Mr. Bertram.
Okay. Todd was the second. Mrs. Scheibert?
Yes.
Mrs. Stewart?
Yes.
Mrs. Mulligan? Yes. Dr. Urso?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
I had an opportunity to make remarks. You don't have to if you don't want to, but if you would like to say anything, we welcome it. I believe, let me see here. It is not. No, we were good.
I'm pleased that you've chosen me again, and I'll do my best to serve my best. Thank you.
Moving on to the fiscal year 2024 tax budget that Mr. Bertram just recently presented to us. Is there a motion for approval?
So move for approval.
Second.
Any questions regarding it? If there are none, then Mr. Bertram.
Mrs. Stewart?
Yes.
Mrs. Mulligan?
Yes.
Dr. Urso?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Scheibert?
Yes.
Next agenda item is the appointment of committee chairs and representatives for the year 2023. I'll turn this over to Mr. Bertram and Mr. Stiles to go through current or last year's appointees. We're open to suggestions. I think there's a level of continuity. I know, Mr. Moore, you enjoy being a part of the, which one is it, the Planning Commission?
Yes.
And so I don't know how we did this prior year, so Mr. Bertram, Mr. Stiles, if you can help us walk through this.
Yeah, just to level set our Board of Education again, legal brief from Frost Brown Todd. Board committees, board appointments are different than administrative committees according to policy BCE and policy CE. Policy BCE, which are board committees, call for open meetings to the public, so we're required to follow sunshine law. Administrative committees, policy CE, are administrative-driven agendas with board representation that serves on that particular committee. The administrator who's responsible for the committee brings that information back to the board as a report out to invite board discussion as far as the work taking place in those committees. So again, just trying to make sure we continue to stay transparent, which is something we said several years ago. Yep. Do want to take a moment and just talk about administrative committees to start out with, then transition to board committees. Administrative committees this year remain exactly the same. What I'm recommending is superintendent, our policy committee, finance committee, and district leadership team committee. We have taken away the core construction committee. As you know, the Rosa Parks project is complete. The additional construction that we'll encounter as a Board of Education will be in regards to the community center. You'll hear about that as far as a board committee here shortly. So the three that I'm recommending this year are policy committee, finance committee, and district improvement leadership committee. Recommendations for these committees is to remain stable as far as representation. My recommendation would be to have Ms. Mulligan and Ms. Scheibert serve on the policy committee. Pause for board discussion around that committee for just a moment.
I agree with that recommendation. Curious as to, in terms of the policy and finance, each of these committees, how frequently will they meet? Is there a calendar that's established? And who from the district are a part of these committees in connection with the board representatives?
The policy committee, which I lead, we usually have 3 administrators that are part of that. We include the superintendent, the HR director, and either the curriculum director and/or the student services director. There's times they're not always there, and there's times some of the policies will dictate which one should attend over the other. But yeah, it's usually 2 board members and then 3 administrators.
And for 2023, do you know how often that committee will meet?
Well,
Or
since
is
we
it
didn't
as
get
needed?
moving as quickly as we should have last year, I think we'll work on, if it remains the same between Anita, Kathy, and I, maybe we'll start setting up some monthly meetings to get it rolling.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Second committee we have under administrative committees is the finance committee. In the past, we've had 2 board members serve on that committee, Mr. Moore and Ms. Novak previously. Recommendations this year are for Mr. Moore to serve on that, and then we'll be curious to see if any other board member had interest in filling the second representative spot. Mr. Moore, just want to check with you first before we transition to that second seat.
Yes.
It's a fun committee.
And
Or
again,
Daryl.
I lead that one. Finance committee is something that we're going to have to work on again. It's always hard finding public membership. And today, when we were meeting with a well-known community member, I need to ask him. I know he can corral a few folks for us to get us on that committee to get it up and rolling. Yeah. And Mr. Hightower, if you're watching, I'll be calling. And I would like to see Verlina join that committee. It's generally we meet quarterly, so it's not a lot of time.
Okay. That's fine.
Just to summarize, policy committee, Ms. Mulligan, Ms. Scheibert, finance committee, Mr. Moore, Ms. Stewart. And our last administrative committee we'd recommend is, again, to continue with district improvement leadership committee. This is 4 times a year. We put the dates out at the beginning of the school year. We usually wait until around August till we get a sense of when our data is available to analyze. In the past, Ms. Mulligan and Ms. Scheibert have served on this for probably 3 or 4 years. Been able to bring some good information back to the board. I would recommend to stay consistent with those 2 representatives. Again, we'll check in with the 2 of you first. Got a non-verbal yes from Ms. Scheibert.
Love to.
Ms. Mulligan is very excited to get back into that. So that wraps up administrative committees. They want to transition to board committees. This has been in place since we started the community center. Did want to recommend for the board to entertain having a board committee again for the community center committee. Previously, we had 2 board members serve on that particular community center committee. For the sake of the project and where it's trending, I'd recommend the board entertain keeping Dr. Urso as a representative on behalf of the board. The committee itself has kind of shrunk in size, but we've been very efficient and productive as a committee overall. I anticipate an update coming to the board here soon. I want to open the dialogue up for Dr. Urso to continue serving on that committee and representing the board.
I would be excited to continue serving.
I think Chris has done a great job on the community center board, and I think that's a good recommendation. I would like to continue to serve as a non-member representative. I said non-member, didn't I? Non-voting is what I
Non-voting,
meant. Yeah.
Perfect. Any other board committees that the board would be interested for this school year, or for this calendar year?
I don't believe so. Nothing comes to mind.
We'll transition down towards the bottom of the list there for board appointments. In the past, the board has been involved in several different items here locally and at the state level. There's several that wanted to have some dialogue about. We'll start with the Planning Commission representative. Mr. Moore, you've served in that role in the past. Would you have interest in continuing?
I do.
Okay. The OSBA Urban Commission representative. In the past, Ms. Novak has served in that particular commission. Is there interest in the current board in continuing to participate in that? As you know, we did not go to Capitol this year, so there was no participation back in the fall.
I would say she did attend meetings outside
Yes.
of the Capitol Conference,
Great point.
at her will, though. Yeah.
I am not that familiar with the commission. I am interested in it. I would like to learn a little bit more about it before I fully commit, but I am
Okay.
interested in having some
We can reach
conversation
out and get you
about it.
connected with the organization and get some information?
Mhm.
Okay. The board's favorite, I think there are some unique things that come with this particular one. It's the OSBA Legislative Liaison Representative for Capitol Conference. It'd be a delegate, and then we would need to discuss who the alternate would be on behalf of the board. I'll just open it up for conversation. Not sure if the person who did it last year would remain interested or not. Get an extra ribbon.
The person who did it last year needs a little bit more information on what the person needs to do.
Who did it last year?
Me.
I
Especially
thought
since I didn't, the first year, I was rather foggy on what my role was there, so I was kind of swept along with what went on at the conference, which was not, either I missed a step along the way or something, but I just need to talk to someone about that more. I'll do it, I just need to understand what my role is in that.
I think it'd be best we get you in touch with our Southwest Director for
Okay.
OSBA.
Okay.
The last item under board appointments is a
Alternate?
oh, yes. Is anyone interested in the alternate in case Ms. Shivert's not available?
I would ask for Lena.
I think
Verlena's
Verlina and I
not
could
enough.
muddle our
I'll
way
be-
through
I'll be
this
the
one.
alternate.
Okay.
We can't pile on Verlena.
Until the next time.
Yeah, until the next item.
The last item is the Butler Tech Board Representative. We have, out of all the satellite districts, Butler Tech has a representative from every single board. Again, position previously held by Ms. Novak, so has been vacant since her departure off the board. So it'll be a great time for us to identify that representative so we can communicate to Superintendent Graff.
I would be interested in serving on the Butler Tech Board.
I found it nice to have a active school board member on that board, and so appreciate you, Ms. Stewart, for doing that.
Thank you.
Ms. Stewart, I'll communicate that with Superintendent Graff at Butler Tech, and he'll be sure to reach out to you to get in contact with you and share some information with you.
They're going to be asking me tomorrow who it is. Anxiously waiting.
Phone's buzzing right now.
Yeah.
So I won't be there tomorrow.
No, they'll just ask me, who'd you pick?
Okay.
Those are the board committees, administrative committees, and board appointments for 2023, unless the board has other items.
I don't believe we do.
Yeah.
Moving along to memberships. Again, this is an action item. You can see looks to be 5 memberships up for consideration. At least one of which there's some discussion, the Ohio Coalition for Equity and Adequacy. Again, I'll defer to Mr. Bertram and Mr. Stiles in regards to these. I know a lot of these are standard from year to year in regards to what we receive for this allocation.
Could we go ahead and get the motion in the second?
Yeah, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
All right, then we open up for discussion.
Why is the fourth one, it says 2,000, I'm sorry, it says 3,000 to 12,000. Why that variance?
Well, let's do the first four, the first three and the fifth, and then we'll jump into number 4 there. The first membership is a membership we have each and every year, and I put an estimated amount because these amounts do fluctuate, sometimes based on enrollment or just based on increases. But the OSBA membership, with some subscriptions for each of you, is approximately $8,200. Chamber of Commerce, which we've done annually, is $325. The OASBO Legal Assistance Fund, which I have not seen go up in 20 years, is $250. And the Ohio Education Policy Institute is an estimated $2,000 as well. And I think that's based on enrollment, so much per student. And then there's the Ohio Coalition of Equity and Adequacy. In past years, we had 2 levels of memberships that we could enroll in. The first one was 50 cents a student just to be a part of the Ohio Coalition. Marlon knows a lot more what they do than I do, and I'll let him explain that a little bit. And this year, they sent us the application for $2 per student, and that would include to be part of the legal challenge for statewide vouchers. That's to help pay for legal costs. So that's where we said there's going to be some discussion. As far as the basic goes, Marlon, you want to help with some of the duties that they fulfill for the different organizations throughout the state?
Yeah, this particular coalition has been fantastic as far as supporting our superintendent organization at the state level as well as OSBA on many different levels. Just to give you one real example, any type of, I should say any, but they've been heavily involved in the fair school funding effort across the state the past several years. They've done a number of studies, provided us data as well as some information to support some of our advocacy, and also helping us frame up the particular funding model itself. So they've been very, very informal in regards to that. They've been very involved with any effort around report card reform in many different areas as well. So a lot of conversation around the voucher lawsuit, absolutely yes, but the organization itself has paid huge dividends in regards to progress we made in education in the state, as well as us reaping some of the benefits of their efforts as well. Some of the legislation the board has supported, some of that information has been generated by this coalition.
They're, if you will, the EMIS department for a lot of our organizations. They're pulling a lot of data together for us so we can compare costs and just have good, solid information for advocacy when we are talking to our legislators. Very, very powerful group. Dr. Howard Fleeter, if you've ever heard of him, he does a lot of stuff.
Wanted to take us back to fiscal year 22. Last year, I pulled the numbers. We allocated $3,115 to the coalition. I remember that we did have some discussion about the whether or not we would want to enter into funding the potential lawsuit. Now this year, that lawsuit does move forward in fiscal year 23. I read a recent article that that lawsuit will proceed, and I know that districts are being asked. I just want to make, I would assume that we all know that this is the constitutional challenge to whether or not the state dollars vouchers can be used. And this is, you know, a larger allocation than we've ever made. Obviously, this is going towards the lawsuit itself. My question to the board is, there may be consensus that the board would want to do this. The problem that I have with it is that you have lumped it into a $12,000 allocation. When I look at this, you could make a resolution in the future if we decided to bring this forward. I personally would not support up to $12,000 in funding because I do believe in choice. And the issue for me is that we receive $38 million more. The fair funding model is working, and I believe that our students do well under the fair funding model. So I would not be willing for us to go into funding the lawsuit itself. We've stayed out of that lawsuit in the past, but within Middletown, for parochial students and for folks that attend Catholic schools, our community, I think, is served well by having options. Folks come to Middletown, and folks also look outside of Middletown City Schools. Obviously, I want the best being a board member for our students, but us entering into a potential lawsuit is not something that I would be in favor of doing. Again, another route to this action is rather than just allocating the funds, I guess if the folks agree that they would want to enter into the lawsuit, I think that needs to be clear tonight, that if you're going to allocate $12,000, the intent of that $12,000 is for us not only to enter into the lawsuit, but to fund the potential state challenge to Ohio's voucher program.
Would it be a $9,000 addition? Is that you would get the $3,000 for whatever that base, whatever
That's
package?
pretty much for the work Howard Fleeter does.
So
for
3,000
the
would be for
data-
that,
data
9,000
mining.
would be to what Todd is mentioning, if there is a potential court case,
Yeah.
9,000 would be allocated in support of that.
Yeah.
Is that,
That's what I believe to be the case. Yeah, they asked for $2 per student to help fund that particular case, yes.
I gotcha.
Opposed to 50 cents just to be a part of the coalition.
So I was making sure I understood you well down here. You said the 3,000 is for the membership,
Correct, for the work.
and then
that
the
you said, Dr.
9,000
Fleeters.
goes directly towards the case?
To go towards the legal fund to drive
Or
that
just
case.
toward-
I don't know,
So it could
dollar
be-
for dollar if that's the case, but yeah, they do have a legal fund and they do ask for $2 per student to help support that, opposed to 50 cents to just be part of the coalition.
And is that the
How-
As
backpack
they
bill?
did past year.
Backpack is part of the fair funding, isn't it?
It's part
Two
of-
separate items,
Yeah.
two separate items. I
Yeah,
think it might be
but-
worth,
I
it might be
don't,
worth the board considering is we could approach our legal firm, Frost Brown Todd, and see if we could have a potential legal brief around the current state of the lawsuit.
I think that would be
That-
helpful.
Yeah,
That's
I
what
would
I
need
would understand.
clarification, 'cause I don't-
Like,
yeah.
what is the
Just a-
potential of this lawsuit and, you know, the length of time it might go on and that type of thing.
We could just get an update from Frost Brown Todd about their understanding of the state of that, but then also if there's any information they have around backpack bills, since the board's mentioned that tonight, just to provide you with some information. That way everyone has the same common knowledge that they're working from, whether it's an assumption it's going to support or not support the fair school funding model, because I don't believe that the backpack bill does that in any way, shape, or form. To have a legal understanding of those two items might be a good starting spot for the board.
Is this something that we would have to decide tonight?
Tonight,
Well,
yeah.
I'd ask the board to go ahead and approve the lower limit between 3,000 and 3,500. I'll call the agency tomorrow and just tell them we're considering the other side of it, but for now, we just still want to be a part of the basic coalition and adequacy work that they do.
Does that seem fair?
That's
Yes.
fair.
I think that's good.
Are there any other questions regarding any of the other memberships? Then we are ready to vote, Mr. Bertram.
And I think up to Mrs. Mulligan,
Yes.
Dr. Urso.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
And to clarify, you're allocating $3,500, is that
Up
what?
to,
Okay,
yes.
yes.
Mrs. Schreiber
Yes.
and Mrs. Stewart.
Yes.
The next agenda item is compensation for 2023. Is there a motion for approval?
So move for approval.
Second.
In a second. Any questions or comments in regards to this? If there are none, then go ahead. Mr.
I would just say that the compensation hasn't changed in, I don't know, 15 years. It's been a long time. And we do pay the max per allowable of $125 per meeting for those that are watching the meeting, and which really breaks down to very little per hour with all the work that you do. So it's pretty much your gas money, and I appreciate you doing it for such a small amount.
Thanks for clarifying
Dr. Urso?
that. Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Schreiber?
Yes.
Mrs. Stewart?
Yes.
Mrs. Mulligan?
Yes.
All right, and the grand finale for the organizational meetings are almost the grand finale, the standing resolutions. Mr. Bertram, do you have those that I can read?
Throw them in here for me. Double check that. I don't see it in here, Chris.
Would they be in here?
No, I don't think it was already on there.
Yeah, you have them on there.
Oh, it's great, Marlos.
Mr. Bertram, the majority of these resolutions, these are annual resolutions that we passed. Is there any significant changes? I didn't see any changes from the previous year.
But I am required to read these?
Yeah, not in their entirety. The sixth one in that group, Marlon, is the summary of each of them.
This one?
The
Resolution
last one,
six, or this?
summary.
That one? All right, do I read these independently and we go each by each, or do I read through each of them?
Let's get a motion in a second, read through them, and then we'll ask for a...
All right, is there a motion to approve the standing resolutions for 2023?
So moved.
Second.
All right. You guys ready? Resolution 3, reading of the minutes. Dispense with the adoption of resolutions for the purpose or sale of property except real estate, payment of debts or claims, and the salaries of employees, and the approval of warrants for the payment of claims for the approved school funds, deposit of funds, and the investment of these funds per the ORC. The superintendent or designee approves expenses within approved appropriations for staff to attend professional meetings, and the treasurer to be authorized to make appropriation modifications and fund-to-fund transfers and advances as needed pending board approvals.
The summary of the summary is it allows us to do our work each and every day and then come back and ask permission if needed later.
Sounds like a lawyer wrote this. Resolution number 4, allowing the treasurer to receive tax advances in accordance to the law of this state and to present and certify a copy of said resolution to the county auditor for the release of tax advance funds. Resolution 5, requiring the superintendent of schools to be bonded at $20,000, the treasurer at $100,000, and to secure a blanket bond of $5,000 to cover employees' handling of district funds. Resolution 6, the establishment of a board service fund, the greater of two amounts established in ORC section 3315.15. And Resolution 7, authorization of the district superintendent to hire staff for employment and the treasurer to pay said employees up to a period of 45 days prior to the board's approval of hired staff. Any questions regarding those resolutions? No.
Just that the names be updated to include the new board member is all.
Are we missing that on a tally for the agenda?
My name just isn't on there. I think
Yeah, there's only 4.
Michelle's name is still listed on all
You
of the
mean on the
resolutions.
website?
On the actual,
Okay.
on the actual resolutions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
All right.
Yep.
Take care of that. I'm all for it.
You're good.
We'll fix it.
Fair enough.
All right, Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Schreiber?
Yes.
Mrs. Stewart?
Yes.
Mrs. Mulligan?
Yes.
Dr. Urso?
Yes. And the last item is the 2023 Board of Education meetings. Is there a motion for approval?
So move.
Second.
As you look at those meetings, are there any questions or concerns regarding any of them? I believe we received this a few weeks ago, so we had a chance to review.
The April 3rd date was just moved up for, that's the first Monday instead of the second. That was just moved up.
Probably having to do with spring break.
I know we moved, from what I shared with you, we
Which is
moved
fine, I was just,
January, that's correct. Yes. Mountain
It's hard to see the July dates with the staple. Is it July 3rd and July 24th are the 2 dates in July?
Correct.
Because I had made a mention that the initial one, I would be
Right.
missing 2, and you made that adjustment. I appreciate that. Any questions, concerns?
Well, Verlina, is there an issue with that April meeting for you?
no, I just wanted to make sure it was correct, so I put the dates on the calendar.
In prior years, you've sent out invitations, you've sent out meeting reminders?
Yep, we'll send out a notice for everything in the year.
Perfect.
Once this is approved, and then if there's any changes to those meetings, those changes go out then
Perfect.
per meeting, yeah.
All right, thank you. If there are no questions or concerns, then Mr. Bertram, we're ready to vote.
Mrs. Schreiber?
Yes.
Mrs. Stewart?
Yes.
Mrs. Mulligan?
Yes.
Dr. Urso?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
All right, at this time, is there a motion for adjournment for the organizational meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of
Aye.
adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Meeting adjourned. 2 meetings down. Mr. Bertram, I was looking at the work session meeting, and I noticed executive session is at the beginning. We're good? All right. Well, hey, welcome again to the Monday, January 9th regular work session board meeting. I call this meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. On the agenda, it lists executive session. We're going to move that to the end of the meeting. At this time, would the treasurer please call the roll?
Mr. Moore?
Here.
Mrs. Schreiber?
Here.
Mrs. Stewart?
Here.
Mrs. Mulligan?
Yes.
Dr. Urso?
Here. Could you please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All right, thank you. Any questions in regards to what is on the docket? If there are none, then Mr. Bertram.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Schreiber?
Yes.
Mrs. Stewart?
Yes.
Mrs. Mulligan?
Yes.
Dr. Urso?
Yes. Doesn't appear to be any public participation, so that brings us to tonight's consent agenda. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Anything need to be highlighted from tonight's consent agenda?
I will say that I have a financial report on there, which is approving the, here we go, the permanent appropriations, changing them from 9/13 to 12/31. And it's just getting them in line with a lot of the federal dollar carryover monies we received in November. So it's updating those. I also updated the general fund to include what's on the 5-year forecast from November's approval.
Are there any questions regarding this? If there are none, then I believe we're ready for a vote.
Mrs. Schreiber?
Yes.
Mrs. Stewart?
Yes.
Mrs. Mulligan?
Yes.
Dr. Urso?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
That takes us to business and transportation. There appears to be one agenda item under that. It's an alternative logistics technologies holding. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Would appreciate some clarification regarding this.
We're presenting the board with an alternative vendor for homeless students' transportation. Our current vendor charges a flat rate of $75 per student per trip. That fund is quickly becoming exhausted due to their funding mechanism. We've reached out to several districts around the area to see what type of vendors they use and got some very good references in regards to Alternative Logistics Technologies Holdings, Inc., as an alternative funder, service provider for transportation for homeless students. This particular carrier, they charge $75 for the actual trip itself, not per student, but the trip itself. So if 3 students are involved in the trip, previously the vendor was charging us $75 per child. With this particular vendor, if those same 3 students are in the vehicle for transportation, they only charge $75. So what we're recommending is the board enter into an agreement with this particular vendor. What we would like to do as a school district is to analyze the services, see if there are any type of efficiencies and cost savings. We anticipate coming back to the board in the near future with some information for you, but also to entertain picking one vendor over the other after we get a chance to vet. but based on input from surrounding districts, the service is very high quality, very efficient, but also really assists as far as cost savings.
Any questions?
Are all of these students being picked up and dropped off at the same place?
It depends. So we could have a student that is placed and lives in Mason, but their home school is here. We're responsible for the transportation. Or you could have a student who is living or displaced wherever it may be at. It's our obligation as a school district to get them to and from school, so we provide them
So
transportation.
they could be from 3 different locations, and it's still,
Correct.
since it's just coming to the high school, one designated spot is $75?
Well, each child that's being transported would be $75 with the current vendor.
This
No,
vendor-
with the new vendor.
With the new vendor. mhm,
Even
the-
though they're coming from different locations, it's
the
going to
trip,
be
yeah, so-
$75.
So our team right now is looking for what are those high-profile trips, meaning which ones are most expensive, and there's any way for us to really attach the new vendor to some of the most high-intense, cost-wise trips. So we just got a little bit of homework to do, some analyzing to try to find that cost savings for us.
I will share with the board, we have approximately 120 homeless students identified as homeless that we're responsible for. We're not unique. Every district has the same issues. And with Marlon's example, almost every time we share the cost with the district. So if they're transporting one of our kids, because they go to their school but living in our district, we'll share the cost to Mason, vice versa. So, you know, we still pay a lot, as everyone does, but it's a service that's definitely needed. You know, if we can reduce, currently we use one more than others, but we have 3 different companies that could provide this service, and we are looking for an alternative for savings. Not to say we'll totally get rid of the other ones, because we may need them if there's not availability with this carrier.
Is this an effort to keep the kids consistent in where they're attending school, as opposed to having to move back and
Yes,
forth?
that's
Okay.
exactly right.
Okay.
So they don't have to change schools every
Okay.
time they have to change living arrangements.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there a maximum distance, or could these students be on transport for 45 minutes or an hour away to and from school?
Yes,
And does that happen?
it does. Yeah. You know, I don't think we've had any more than 45 minutes away that I'm aware of. But yeah, there are times where they travel quite a bit. Not so much the distance, but the traffic creates that time frame.
Doesn't seem optimal, not at all.
Yeah.
No, appreciate your team working to find ways to balance the
Yeah.
cost and the service for this.
Credit to Beth Oldhoff.
Any other questions? If there are none, then Mr. Bertram.
Mrs. Schreiber?
Yes.
Mrs. Stewart?
Yes.
Mrs. Mulligan?
Yes.
Dr. Urso?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
This brings us to district committee reports.
We got good news. We have a district leadership team committee coming up here relatively soon. We've got some fantastic information for Ms. Scheibert and Ms. Mulligan to take a look at. I don't remember the date, but I know you look very excited.
19th.
The 19th of
Yeah.
January.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got those dates out to you. But we'll have a follow-up for the board following that meeting. Outside of that, no other committees have met, outside of Community Center, which Dr. Urso and Ms. Stewart will be able to give you an update.
Ms. Stewart, do you mind if I start? And do you want to add anything that maybe I have neglected or forgotten?
Have at it.
All right. Last Thursday, we did meet as a committee, and very impressed with the architects that are working on this project. Each time the committee meets, a lot of good ideas are shared. I believe CBI has been instrumental in communicating what they need and how the building can service what their function is better. And each time, Phil and others who are part of the architect team come back with solutions to those problems. There are renderings, and it's always nice to see in picture what the words kind of connect to. The space is impressive. The committee, part of the committee has been able to travel to other community centers like ours, and it's a good exercise because you get to see firsthand, you get to walk in a space and understand what will be in our community. As you travel down Verity Parkway and you look now, you'll see a space that I do think has the chance to be transformative for a lot of young folks and families in our community, not those just who surround that facility, but hopefully throughout our community. The big conversation right now is around funding. we're at a point within the calendar using ESSER dollars that we have to make sure that we're mindful to dates, that the architects have to have enough time to actually plan the building and the builders to build. We're excited about being partners with the city, and the city just recently approved some additional funding. But I think where we stand right now, we're still a little short. And I think we had, I think, a constructive meeting on Thursday to figure out what exactly we can do. Using a football analogy, I believe that we're on like the 2 or 3 or 4 yard line, and we're close, but we're not there. And it would be a shame to be so close and yet not cross the end zone to be able to afford the full scope of what is possible. And the big question right now is around the gymnasium. And I think there's consensus within the committee, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, that is a key piece to the vitality and the sustainability of that project. In talking to other community centers throughout this area, it is the gymnasium that attracts people and will allow us to hopefully have some sustainability and income through that space. And the difference between different iterations is significant in regards to what that space can do. The preschool space, it is neat. As a young person, I wish there was a better adjective, but you just see where it would be somewhere that I think any family would be excited to send their young person. It also opens up space at our current preschool to hopefully open up opportunities. I think, Marlon, you indicated that it is a daycare desert. I don't know exactly if I'm saying it right, in Middletown, to where there's just not enough great opportunities for families to have their kids in a space that is constructive, where this will offer that opportunity and do it in a 5-star, highly qualified and exciting space. There's space here for a kitchen that will allow folks to come into the center and harness some skills, and also to serve our young people, and also to provide exciting opportunities for vendors and others to come in and use that space too. The grounds, again, I'm looking at the document, does you no good if you're watching it online, and my colleagues here, so we'll pass it around. You'll see on here some renderings, and you can see the spaces inside, and then the dates are critical, but it's really the dollars and cents. And so I would encourage the community to become involved in this process too. I know it was powerful when, I think it was in this space, that Mr. Hightower and others came and just advocated on the value of this project. And it was important for us to hear that. And I think there's a time now for us to understand, how valuable would this be? Do you really want the full scope of what a gym and activity center and the preschool? And if there is that desire, then I think for us as a board and for city council as a body to understand that and understand where this is going to be impactful to the census tracts that surround that and the work that Jackie Phillips is doing, then we need to hear that. And I would encourage folks to become active and vocalize that process. Ms. Stewart?
I think I would just like to add, I'm reminded when we started this project 2 years ago, and I was fortunate enough to be at the table when Mr. Stiles just threw out the idea about the possibilities of expanding the community center in this area could be. And I'd like to just remind some folks that at the time we talked about that, we threw out a number of $12 million 2 years ago. And I just throw that out because I want people to know we're not inflating this number as we go, that number was always the number that we started with. And what we tried to do was pare back as much as possible to make this project doable. And with the work, as Chris said, that Branstetter has done, it's remarkable. This is such a big opportunity. And we're still at that dollar amount. So we haven't changed the number. The number has remained the same. We just tried to pare back and do what we could do to get it a more manageable number, because we were challenged with that. So I want to throw that out. And the return on investment is going to be huge once this project is up and running. This is a game changer for Middletown students. and to truly make this a community center, not just the center on the other end of town, not just the center that goes into one of our main thoroughfares into Middletown, but this is a community center for everybody, and it's going to have a huge, huge impact on all of our kids. And we can really hit the mark when we're talking early education and preschool readiness. And I would just hope that the community would come out and support this project in a great way. The information is there. We're going to try to make this available for all of the community to see, but it's certainly here at the district. It's at the community center. We want you to be a part of it. We want you to understand it. We want you to celebrate this project with us. We're super excited. We're super excited and committed to bringing this project to fruition. And you just have to see the renderings and see the vision and dream with us. But thank you, Chris, for that report. It's really exciting, and we're looking forward to it.
One last piece is that I think as a community, we want to thrive. I know we want to thrive. And projects like this are preventative in that nature, and they're a way to beef up opportunities for young folks who sometimes need them. In the summertime, kids need spaces to go that are safe.
Mm-hmm.
They need to have adult peer supervision. In the wintertime, when there are breaks, they need spaces that are constructive. And as young people, to know that as you enter school, that you have those core competencies that schools require as you enter
Absolutely.
kindergarten. And to expect our schools to excel, we also have to do these other pieces as a community to ensure they have the tools and so they can launch and do the great things. And this is an effort to do that, and it's an effort to amplify impact by amplifying the impact of the dollars that we receive. And so it's a great opportunity. And I echo your enthusiasm and the hope, and I'll allow Mr. Stiles or Mr. Bertram, you've been a part of these meetings too, if there's anything to add. And by all means, reach out to us. If you have questions
Absolutely.
and concerns, just would like to know a little bit more, we're accessible. And so reach out to us, and we'd be happy to answer those questions.
I would simply add, on behalf of the school board, we are working on a communication around the current state of the project for the community center. Architects were able to provide us the electronic version of what Dr. Urso has, so we'll definitely get that to the board, but also we'll be publicizing it out so our community has a chance transparently just to see the excitement that was mentioned by the two community center champions up here on the board. I'll just echo what Dr. Urso and Ms. Stewart said. Get behind these 5 champions for this particular cause. Let's get the project by the finish line. What you'll see that they have planned for the community, it'll blow your mind. And it is truly something special that allowed this community to thrive. So I echo very loud and clear. Let's rally the troops, generate the excitement, and let's rally the middies to get this across the finish line. We're almost there.
Yeah.
Almost there.
And I also just want to really thank the city of Middletown for their support and their contribution thus far. They have been amazing, and we 100% appreciate the city's vote of confidence and financial support.
And just to add to that a little bit, the county donated another $1.5 million toward this project, so we're very thankful to them. And our representative, Thomas Hall, also went to bat for us last year. We've got another $350,000 contributed to this from the state of Ohio in their budget. So thankful to all of them.
All right. If I'm looking at this correct, it brings us to Board of Education reports. And Mr. Moore, you're up first if there's anything to report.
No comments this evening.
All right. Moving down the line, Ms. Schreiber,
No.
anything to report?
Nothing to report, thank you.
All right. Is it 3 in a row, or Ms. Stewart, do you have anything to report this evening?
I just want to thank the RISE team. Some of you noticed there was an article in the paper about the new board member last week, and the RISE team was able to pull together a great number of kids, and they were there. And it was their first day back to school, so I know that probably was not an easy feat. So thank you to the RISE, and thank you to the folks that made that happen. Thank you.
No comments.
No comments this evening. I would just like to give a shout out to our winter athletic teams. I had the honor to watch our middies play a tough Sycamore team last week. And just watching our folks, our young men on the basketball team, I know a couple of them under the guidance and leadership of Coach Moss, Coach Edwards. A lot of Middie alums now are working with Middie current students and athletes, which is exciting. I know our women's basketball team is doing great. Our bowling team, I think, had some nice wins over the last week. I saw some of their results, and I always am curious of the athletes of the week, and it's nice that our athletic department does a nice job recognizing a whole array from our cheerleaders. I think my son competed on the academic team this evening. Don't know how they did, but it's nice to see our young folks out doing exciting things. Mr. Bertram, anything to report this evening?
I'd just like to add the wrestling team to that as well.
Yeah, they had a really nice showing.
A lot of good news, been reading a lot of Twitter, a lot of exciting posts out there on Twitter about our athletes. They're doing a fantastic job. I'd just like to say Happy New Year to everybody, and I'm glad we had a little snow for Christmas, and I hope we don't see any more the rest of the year. Sorry, kids.
No snow days, huh? No snow days?
No snow days. No snow days this year. And I'll pass it to you, Marlon.
I just want to take an opportunity to just make an announcement this evening. Back in 2017, the Board of Education took a chance on a young guy named Marlon Stiles, and I was honored that you hired me, as well as the school district, as your first black male superintendent. We've done a lot together during that 5.5-year period, and I've been blessed and honored with the opportunity to serve the children, the staff, and the community. We've done some amazing things together, built an unbelievable culture represented by #MiddieRising. I do want to thank the staff for everything that they've done during that 5.5-year window. We have asked a lot of the entire staff. Doesn't matter what your position, and the staff has more than answered the call during that 5.5-year window. To the students, I just simply want to say thank you for believing in me. Thank you for challenging me to invest in you. I do want you to know that I have and always will believe in you. You're capable of so much, and you offer this city nothing but the heartbeat of truly what Middletown is all about. I will say tonight that I poured my heart and soul into the school district and the community, and I'm awfully proud of where the district sits at present day. I believe the Board of Education, the staff, the community, we have a lot to celebrate. It's a great time right now in Middletown City School District, and we should all be proud of that together. This is truly a celebration about where we're at. I'm going to say that I've got a ton of confidence in this school district and where the district is heading, and I know without a doubt the district's got some unbelievable successes just right around the corner, and we should celebrate that. With that being said, tonight I do want to announce my resignation as superintendent of Middletown City School District. I presented with an opportunity to be a partner at Learner-Centered Collaborative to work with school districts all across the country. Been blessed with the opportunity to serve and impact kids all across the country, and that is my passion. I don't know when my last day will be. I know the board and I still have to have some conversations about when that moment might come. But tonight I just wanted to simply not just announce the resignation, but share with you kind of what the next journey in my career, my life may be, but just take a moment and just celebrate and say thank you for the opportunity to sit alongside the 6 of you, 7 sometimes out in the crowd. But more importantly, just say thank you to every Middie who's just made me feel like part of the family. Some have asked, why do you stay so long? It's because I care. I know my first year here, 6 months in, got a lot of questions about, you're not going to be here for long. Why should we support you? We're 5.5 years later, and I'm proud to say I stayed, right? And the reason why is because I care. I care about being a Middie, care about this community. I care about the potential. I care about the kids. I love the staff. I care. So although I'll be stepping down from this position, just know I'm right down the street. And as the kids say, once a Middie, always a Middie. And I'm looking forward to just impacting the profession and serving kids on a much greater scale on a national level. So I hope the board will support this decision. I've been blessed to have a partner in crime like Mr. Bertram with me every step of the way and been able to lean on him a lot here recently. The more value our relationship and our friendship more than probably the work aspect of it. Go Georgia tonight. But I do. I just wanted to thank the board for the opportunity, thank the community for the support, and just tell the kids, just keep dreaming bigger than you ever have before. You got a lot of great middies in the city to believe in you. Wish you all the best. So with that being said, just want to inform the board tonight officially, and I'll submit my letter of resignation once we come to an agreement on when that last day may be. So thank you so much for taking a chance on me. Forever grateful.
I would just like to say a couple words. First off, thank you, Marlon. Like you, you always hear, when you bring in a talented person, there's always people noticing that. And early on, I knew the first day I met you that the intellect, work ethic, all the things that other folks have said about you, as we interviewed you 5.5, 6 years ago. Gosh, time goes fast. It was an easy decision for me to know that you would come into Middletown and transform it. And looking at where we were and where we are, this is a celebration. And of course we support you. And we'll always support you because you've done so much for Middletown and Middletown's youth. And you put us in a position today that I'm excited. I'm excited about what's next. We have built capacity. We are stable as a district. We have phenomenal teachers and leaders throughout our system. And Marlon, you've helped establish that. And our reputation in our community and outside in the region has transformed. And so we sit here in a good place. Yeah, I was always afraid when I saw your number pop up on my phone because I knew this day would come. And when you did tell me a week or so ago, I was like, hey, can you connect with me some point today? I called you right back because you knew. And you understood that there's only a window of time. But as our board, we have been diligent and we have prepared and we understood this day was coming. And so just to the staff and to the community and to the young folks, where this is, I want to say on some levels disappointing because when you have someone great, you want to hold on to them for as long as you can. We're ready. And Marlon has helped make us ready for whatever comes next. And as a board, we're going to do our absolute best to ensure that we continue to climb, continue to do great things, and that our young folks will be served in the best ways possible because we have those kinds of adults and we have those kinds of young people who are supremely talented that will work through this and in many ways be better off. I'll allow my colleagues if there's anything that you would like to say.
Hey, Marlon, I remember the year you came on board, or the year you were hired, was when I was going to deciding whether to run for school board. And just wanting to know what I was getting into, I took you and Randy to lunch. I think you had a big hamburger and Randy had a salad. But that conversation with you is why I ran for school board, because I thought I'd like to work with you. And in the beginning, I was a little bit wary that how you're going to fit in with achievement, which was my priority. And I realized a couple months later, or maybe 6 months into your tenure, that you did get it about achievement and you knew how to go about it. Otherwise, people are just complaining and doing the same things over and over again, but you realized that we couldn't keep doing the same thing and expect different results. And hence our strategic plan that I'm delighted to be implementing and I'm in full favor of. And I'm going to miss you, but I know I'll hear more about you. And I'll miss always borrowing a pen from you and your socks, your colorful socks. They will resonate forever. So I wish you the best in your next endeavor, and I know you'll continue to be successful.
Thank you, Kat.
Bacon and eggs are his socks today.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm super disappointed that I'll have such a short stay as a board member with you as superintendent, but I'm really happy for you. And we all know that the mark of a really good leader is to leave an organization in a better place than when you came, which you have done in the biggest way possible, and not just the organization, but the city of Middletown. So I'm super happy for you. I'm really pleased with all of the work that you have done, that I feel so confident that even with your separation, we're going to be okay, and that is largely due to the work that you've done here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I have to echo everybody's thoughts. Plus, as I told Marlon, I think if we'd have lost you to another school district, it would have broken my heart. But I see you affecting many, many more teachers and kids, and I so respect your ideas and the influence you've had here. It's just been kind of an exciting thing to watch. We learned how to hang on and go step by step instead of diving in. I think we all had to learn that. We wanted things done 10 minutes later, and we've had to learn that. And I just wish you the best of luck and hope you're always available to be called on if we just need to chat sometime. But I just think of the many people who are going to be affected by your thinking and your vision, which is amazing, Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shiver. Thank you.
Wow, that's a tough act to follow, everyone's comments. Well, listen, I wasn't exactly prepared to make any comments tonight, but meeting you for the first time, I was always impressed with your energy. And two things I would like to say, though. I knew you coming into the district. It was nice to see new leadership coming into the district, number one. But also, I've always been impressed with the team that you put in place. And I think I've shared that with you before. Many of the folks that you've brought into the district or the team that you assembled, have always been impressed with that work. Your next step, I'm sure, is going to be successful because I know that you are a driven person. And I know that you have kids at heart and the best at heart for kids in all communities. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you're going to do next, and I certainly wish you the very best luck, Marlon. Absolutely.
So one last thank you, Marlon. I know we have you for a little while longer. There's still a lot of work to be complete. But again, to the staff and to the community, we'll figure this out. We're prepared for this. And so be excited with us because in any new thing, yeah, there's uncertainty, but we're prepared to respond to that and to continue the climb that Marlon has helped start. And so with that being said, is there a motion to adjourn into executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official with no action to follow?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Stewart?
Yes.
Mrs. Mulligan?
Yes.
Dr. Urso?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Shiver?
Yes.